I chose Harriet Tubman for my historical speech. Harriet Tubman is a wonderful example of how you should not let your circumstances, no matter how severe they are, hold you back from anything. Harriet Tubman was born Harriet Ross in 1819. Her parents were slaves. She underwent harsh conditions and several beatings, even as a small child. Here is a picture of Harriet Tubman in her older years. Harriet Tubman, at the age of 25, married John Tubman, who was a free African American. 5 years later, Harriet decided to make her own escape. With the help of a white male neighbor who had given her a sheet of paper with 2 names on it and directions to find her first destination, Harriet began her escape. Upon reaching her first destination, she was put in a carriage and covered with a sack and driven to her second destination. Once she reached her second destination, she followed the route to Pennsylvania, where she initially settled in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, she met William Still, who was the station master for the Underground Railroad. With the help of Still and other members of the Anti-Slavery Society, Harriet Tubman learned the workings of the Underground Railroad. She had made several trips back to Maryland to free her family members from slavery. She also freed many other slaves. It is reported that Harriet Tubman had helped free over 300 slaves and brought them to the North. Her success was wonderful. Time and time again, she made many successful trips to Maryland on the Underground Railroad and would be absent for weeks at a time, running daily risks while making preparations for herself and other passengers. On the road between Syracuse and Rochester, she came in contact with many sympathetic Quakers and abolitionists who had settled in Auburn. She then settled in Auburn. There she met the U.S. Senator and former New York Governor William Seward. She also met his wife Frances. In 1857, the Sewards provided a home for Tubman, to which she relocated her parents. This home was later sold to her for a small sum, and became her base of operations when she was not on the road aiding fugitives from slavery and speaking in support of the cause. After the outbreak of the Civil War, Harriet Tubman became a soldier, a spy, and a nurse, for a time serving in Fortress Monroe, where Jefferson Davis would later be imprisoned. After the close of the Civil War, Harriet Tubman returned to Auburn, New York. There she married Nelson Davis and lived in a home they built on South Street, near the original house the Sewards had given her. This house still stands on the property and serves as a home for the resident manager of the Harriet Tubman House. And here is a picture of the Harriet Tubman House, on how it looks today. This house was only 12 miles from Seneca Falls. Tubman helped Auburn to remain a center of activity in support of women's rights. With her home literally down the road, Tubman remained in contact with her friends, William and Frances Seward. In 1908, she built a wooden structure that served as her home for the aged and indigent. Here she worked and herself was cared for in the period before her death in 1913. After her death, Harriet Tubman was buried in Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn with military honors. She has since received many honors, including the naming of the Liberty ship Harriet Tubman, christened in 1944 by Eleanor Roosevelt. On June 14, 1914, a large bronze plaque was placed over the county courthouse, and a civic holiday declared in her honor. Freedom Park, a tribute in the memory of Harriet Tubman, opened in the summer of 1994. In 1995, Harriet Tubman was honored by the federal government with a commemorative postage stamp bearing her name and her likeness. And here is a very rough picture of the stamp that I printed off my computer. As you can see, Harriet Tubman never let her circumstance hold her back, and I wish many other people could be just like her.